Hey, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, we so often get letters from people who are wondering why our comments are disabled and why there are people who apparently would like to see us taken down. It just seems to be part of the whole setup of YouTube, which I've often said is going to change. I believe that it's going to change. Now, very recently, President Duterte actually took out a libel case against Rappler and won it. And I don't know about damages, but anyway, they were forced to be accountable for what they had said about the president. Obviously, he's got a little bit more clout than most of us mere mortals, but it still means a turn in the tide of anonymity that is enjoyed by the people that spread hate and poison. This was announced a little while ago by Facebook that they would start to that they were in talks about having people give their real name and address when they sign up for a website. Not a website, when they sign up for an email address, that they would give their real name. Google apparently is in on that as well. So we look forward to perhaps having some action on that ourselves. Possibly more than most other channels, we have come in for a great deal of concerted, dedicated attacks by various groups. Now, eventually, my feeling is that what will happen is that just in the case of when someone steals something, if they steal, if you steal this object, you are guilty of a crime, you're guilty of theft. But if you sell that to someone who knowingly buys it, knowing that it's stolen, he becomes an accessory to the crime, and often is dealt with more severely than the thief, because if there were no receivers, there would be no thieves. So just in the same way, on the same principle, this is what may soon happen about people who step back in the shadows and give a platform to the most hateful comments that are made about various people on the internet. And they do this in the shadow, behind their usernames, which of course they can have a dozen of if they so wish, and they can do what they think is hidden. Of course, the problem is that nothing is hidden on the internet because everything is stored, and eventually my feeling is that people will be held accountable. Now listen to this that I've just received, and to give credit, it is on, let me see, it's on a company called MediaCube Partnerships Network, and they offer a partnership in which they help to educate people on various things that are happening on the internet. Well, here's something that they actually sent to me, and I'm giving them credit for giving this. YouTube punishes the scammer who blackmailed gamers. Now, so the man apparently was Christopher Brady. He manually sent complaints saying the Minecraft gamers had stolen his content. 2 complaints led to 2 strikes, and the third would mean the removal of the channel. Now, after 2 strikes, Brady blackmailed YouTubers, demanding money and promising that he wouldn't send the 3rd complaint. Now, he asked for money. So he asked for money for this favor and demanded money. Now, YouTubers Obi Raids and Kenzo complained about this to YouTube representatives on Twitter. So they went outside the complicated process that YouTube have for addressing these complaints, and they went on Twitter, which attracted attention. So let me see. And they complained on Twitter, and the company, meaning YouTube, sued Brady. Now he has formally apologized and will have to pay $25,000. Not 1,000 pesos, okay? $25,000. YouTube will give the money to a non-profit organization that defends the interests of creators. So, as always, these things start little by little. And usually the people who are doing their evil deeds recognize what is happening and recognize the writing on the wall, and they get the hell out of there. But of course, not all of them do. Now, can you remember back, maybe I'm so old that I can remember this and you don't, but a long time ago, it was possible for something to be invented by some clever guy in America or anyway in the West, Germany, Europe, the UK, America, Australia. Some guy there would invent something, and the design of that would be his. Now, it was covered by intellectual property. He had intellectually designed and produced something, had said something, had written something, and deserved to have that as his property. Now, what used to happen a long time ago, before before Earth became more of just a global community, the Chinese and various, maybe even the Philippines, I don't know back then, but the East used to steal that property, that intellectual property, because it didn't acknowledge the ownership. So it used to steal it, and there was a lot of trouble and strife, and a lot of people lost out on something that they owned. But eventually things changed, and the playing field started to get a little bit leveled out, and people started to be held accountable. And the change was gradual, but it's here now, and very much. Now you try even in the East to produce a t-shirt that has Mickey Mouse on it, or Donald Duck, or any combination of any of the Disney characters, and you try to mass produce it and do it for profit, and you will be nailed. Now, first of all, if they think that you're a fairly small little outfit that they don't need to worry about, they'll send you a cease and desist letter. And if you don't pay attention to that, they'll come down heavily on you, and you will pay. So things have changed. Now, as I said about Facebook, talking about having anonymity thrown out the window, so that when you take a name, Joe Blogs number 1, and you have that as at gmail.com, and if your name is not Joe Blogs number 1, then they'll allow you to have that as Joe Blogs number 1, and then if you are Freddy number 2, that will have to go on your application. Now, what's the purpose of that? Purpose is to take anonymity out of this whole thing of you can get up there and throw mud at anybody that you choose, and you can do it without fear of accountability. Now, it's anybody's guess as to how soon that will end, but it no doubt will end. When people were suffering badly on the intellectual property and the theft of it, they thought that it would never end, because they couldn't see the Chinese or the Indonesians or the Thai, they couldn't see the companies that were hiding in those countries ever being held accountable. They were wrong, and badly wrong. Now, the president has held somebody responsible for something that they thought that they could just get up and say. Presidents are fair game, it seems. Anybody who's a celebrity of any kind is fair game for anybody to say anything. But that's changing. There was another actress who reneged on a contract that she had, and she fled from where she was back to Manila. Now this was all in the Philippines, and then she proceeded to actually criticize and say untrue things about the man who she had had the contract with, and he complained. Libel is answerable through the NBI or the PNP, and if you are out there making false accusations, then eventually, now she was identifiable fairly easily, so the police, according to the public media, the police arrived and they gave her some temporary accommodation until the thing was sorted out. Now, if you're on a fake username, of course, this is going to be a lot more difficult, but it's not impossible. And as things are more high-tech, as they get to take these things for granted, how long is it, for instance, that a telephone like that, and this is an old one, a telephone like that could only be a telephone, and now you have smart watches. Now at one time, I remember, it's I'm ashamed to say it's over 20 years ago that I had a cell phone, and that cell phone was about this big. It wouldn't go in an ordinary pocket, and when you held it up to your face, it was as big as your face and had an antenna on it about like that. Who'd have thought that anywhere but Star Trek would have something like this that you could receive a video call on? I can watch someone on the other side of the world on this little telephone, and I can see him, her talking to me, and guess what? He can see me. And I can turn that telephone and I can say, look what I just did with my living room. And all of that a few years ago would have been impossible. And now we have it on a watch. It's on your wrist. There are no tiny little numbers on it like this. When was the last time you saw a telephone like this? And this at one time was adventurous. Wow, look at that. You don't have to flip the thing up. It's all there, has a screen. It was a huge step forward. Now you can buy a telephone like this for a few hundred pesos, not dollars, pesos. Times are a-changing, and soon those who give a platform to the kind of poison that is spread about on fake names and fake usernames are storing up their own demise. Nothing that's done, nothing that is said on the internet is gone forever. What do you think? Cast your mind back. If you see anybody who is accused of a serious crime and they go round to his house, what's the first thing that they take? They take the computers and the phones. Those little things called address books, well, yeah, they take those as well. But even if you think you've crashed something that's on a phone like this, it's all there. It's still there. And just as we were once subpoenaed to go and appear before the NBI and were declared not chargeable, and then even when we were charged it was dismissed, it's all there. When we went, the NBI had all of our videos. It's all there. And you can't be busted for telling the truth, but you can be busted for not telling the truth. I remember Miss Martha, who was so very good at cooking, and she lied to the FBI. Now, it wasn't that she made such a lot of money from her insider information, because it was really rather a small amount, some $30,000 or $40,000, which she could have paid back from her purse, I would think. She is so rich. She didn't do that, and she served time for doing it. It's called perjury. So, we will see how it all unfolds. It will be interesting. Meantime, Beth and I will keep making videos. And we'll keep doing what we do. Someone said, I'm saddened by the mean-spirited comments that I see on various channels where the object is to bring down others, and I'm saddened by that. But as for you and Beth, just keep doing what you do best. There you have it. We keep doing what we do best. This is a foreigner in the Philippines. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.